The iHemp Hour is brought to you by Down on the Farm, hemp seed oil. Better eggs, better fries, through hemp. Get yours at downtothefarm.biz. We are live on Facebook with the iHemp Hour. Good afternoon. My name is Dave Craybill. I'm with iHemp Michigan. iHemp Michigan's mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp in Michigan. iHemp Michigan advocates for wellness in people, in the planet, and it starts with the farmer. Blaine Bechtold, you're rocking one of those very cool hemp masks. Why don't you tell us about that mask?
Yeah, these are really cool. So we've got these on the website for sale. They're really nice masks. They're a little heavy duty. They're reusable. They're washable. And as we get a little into the more cooler season, they'll really be nice there because they'll help keep your face a little warm. But we've got those there. And also, if you look on the site, we have a way that you can donate to help cover these. We have given some to the Michigan for their inspectors. We hope that they went to the U.S. or to the Michigan agricultural workers, but we donated some so that they could have some PPE equipment. So donate some money to it, get a cool mask, get a cool t-shirt. And so that's on the website. You can look for that. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and I sent off those hemp t-shirts. They're being printed for the people who have volunteered or donated so far. We had a few donations. We spent around $2,500 on masks. So we need to sell a few more t-shirts and get some donations. It'd be very helpful. We appreciate any support. Mike Brennan, you have some news for us.
Yes, the Benziga, which is a financial news service, also specializes in covering cannabis news. And on Tuesday, they had a virtual conference because we can't do live stuff anymore, or at least not right now. And Andrew Brisboe, who's the executive director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, was one of the speakers in the morning, and made the kind of startling announcement that he expects to do $1 billion in legal cannabis sales this year. And within a few years, he thinks Michigan will be selling $3 billion in legalized cannabis. And that would equate to somewhere around $500 or $600 million in tax revenue. So I'm sure that would be welcomed by the legislature. Maybe they could put it into our roads or something, right? Mm-hmm. But it's amazing considering that we only went legal in December of 2019 and how quickly this is moving. Part of that may be is we were one of the few states that had 300,000 medical marijuana users. So there was already a big base of legal users that are being converted over essentially to recreational. And the marijuana medical distinction is going to be going away shortly. And no longer going to be doing that. You won't need to get a card anymore because you can just walk into a provisioning center and buy whatever you want these days. And there's several dozen provisioning centers open in the state, and many more are licensed. They're just coming up to speed. Hence the reason that Brisboe thinks we're going to sell $1 billion with illegal marijuana this year. So interesting news.
Mike, do you have any insight on the number I had heard in the past? There was about 70% of the market was black market sales.
Yeah, I don't have a good handle on that, but I would not dispute that number. I mean, that because it's the black market sales has been around a lot longer than the legal, and it's a lot less expensive. You have a lot of taxes involved with legalized marijuana. You have a lot of regulation. Whereas the black market, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff, and prices are about a third what they are in the legal space. So I suspect that, we'll probably have a very large market. I can't say if it's 70%, but I'll bet at least half of the sales out there are from the black market.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Any other news?
No, that's the main thing. I know Blaine's got a whole bunch of
Blaine's
stuff, so
got a
I
bunch.
wanted to get a chance to have him get right into it.
We're going to talk about peaches, are we, Blaine?
We're going to talk about peaches. So I get a lot of emails because I do food safety stuff from a number of different sources, and we talked about the onion recall that was going on. And that still is going on, by the way. And what's happening now is, as we get farther into those kind of reports and those outbreaks, now it's products that were made with those onions are also being recalled. So if you got any onions at home, just be careful with them. Make sure you cook them up good. If you're going to don't eat them raw, make sure you cook them up good, and that'll take care of most of it. But the best thing to do is just maybe throw them out, just get some new onions and start over again to make sure you don't get sick. But
That was just red onions, right?
yeah. But the latest one that came out, and I thought it was pretty important, was on these peaches. These were sold in Aldi's. There's 9 states right now that are affected by this. Michigan's one, and Michigan actually happens to have one of the larger reported outbreaks of these right now. So again, can't even say it. Salmonella.
Salmonella.
Thank you. Is what that is. So if you bought peaches from Aldi's, best thing there is just throw them out, take them back if you want to try to get some refund on them. But that seems to be the latest one that's going to be the biggest issue right now. So be careful on the peaches. Go get them right fresh. Just go get them right fresh from the tree right now. We're fewer out there. So yeah. So what else we got in news? Okay, so the FDA is looking for a contractor to test CBD products. What they're looking for is they're going to test these for, they're looking for test such products as beverages, water, candy, baked goods. There's a contract notice that's out to, if you want to fill this out, this is more for our testing of people more than anything else. And the purpose of these studies will be to develop a better understanding of the quantities of CBD associated with cannabinoids and their distribution. And so they're looking for, the residue chemicals and solvents and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody's interested in any of our testing people out there, again, the USDA has put out a contract notice, and I don't have a date of when it ends.
August 31st was a deadline to get. It was a tight deadline, which is encouraging because they're working on it fast, it sounds like.
So we got that going on. So maybe somebody's interested in helping out with that. So we finally got a little bit of answer from USDA on why hemp was not included in the latest CFAF that's coming out. And basically it's because they feel that the information that was submitted did not meet the criteria to show that we had a 5% loss in the price of the commodity. Well, I don't know what more we can do, but I know people are working on that. So, I mean, yeah. So
5% a month, or were they looking for 5% a day?
No, 5% from January to April, something like that.
Oh, January. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, the information that Hemp Roundtable did and others by using Hemp Benchmark and a few other ones certainly showed that we had that loss.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But right now, that is the status that hemp is not eligible for the CFAP program as of today. Looking for that. Jacobson's report, they do also a hemp report, marketplace, everything. They came out with one that was pretty interesting, and I'm trying to get some additional information for it, but everybody didn't have to report your acres to FSA this year, your hemp acres, but next year you will under the program rules for next year. But they came out with a really nice report, and see if I can find it while we're talking here. And it shows kind of like white dots and everywhere where people report it and how many acres. So I'm trying to get a report through USDA that gives us the acres that were reported planted to FSA this year. It's not going to tell me who planted or actually where they planted, but it's going to say that this particular county had so many acres, and so we're looking for that. So as soon as I can get that information, we'll share that information out with everybody. But the map that came out was pretty interesting, and I'll find it by the end of the show and show you here where the little white dots are. So as far as the feed coalition's going, are we okay out there, Mom? As far as the feed coalition's going, we are moving ahead with having some research done on that. There's a grant that's been given to a North Dakota company to do research on the hemp byproducts to be able to use for feed. So just want to let you know that that's moving on down the road pretty nicely, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that report when that happens. For all of our Indiana friends, there is having some research done on that. There's a grant that's been given. They've received written communication. Some of their businesses there have gotten written communication from the Indiana Attorney General. It says, it's come to our attention that a member company in Indiana recently received written communication from the Indiana Attorney General's office requesting an informal meeting. If you are a member company in Indiana or sell CBD products in Indiana and have received a written communication from the Indiana Attorney General, please reach out to us. That's reach out to the Midwest Hemp Council with that information. They've had a real struggle down there with their being able to have smokable hemp. And there's just kind of theory that maybe some of this is being played out there. And the Attorney General in Indiana is kind of on the witch hunt there. So if you're in Indiana one, get a notice. Please let the Hemp Council know about that as well for that. Interesting here, this is what we're talking about today a little bit. New York says USDA rules too strict, halts the plans for the hemp program. So they are not submitting a plan. They are going to let their growers go to the USDA program, but it is legal to grow in New York. So they've already passed those, so that's not a problem. But they're not going to come up with their own program at this point. I've reached out to Michigan to find out where the status is on our plan being submitted. My understanding was August 15th or so that was supposed to be sent in. So as soon as we get an update on that, we'll be sure to pass that along to everybody and let you know. As of now, I do believe that Michigan was going to submit a plan for approval for the USDA program. So we'll find out about that. Some other news that came out. So we're talking about food and everything else is coming along. So there's two things. There's a CBD drink maker signs a deal to get products in Circle K, Speedway, and convenience stores. A major convenience store broker has reached an agreement with a Canadian company to distribute its CBD drinks across the United States at gas stations, including Circle K and Speedway. This firm, which is interesting here, is a Kentwood firm, so Grand Rapids, Shankman and Associates, announced this week the deal with Centra Brands Corp to launch their first CBD drinks. So soon you'll be able to get a lot of these CBD drinks here in Michigan and those other stores. And then there's another one that came out about a New Jersey company that makes CBD-infused seltzers, has an agreement with Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company of New York to get the products in New York City grocery stores, convenience stores, and other small Hispanic or ethnic stores, grocery stores as well. So it's coming, and we know it's going to come, and so it's coming along. Now this is interesting. The Kalo brand seltzer contains hemp-derived CBD and retails for, get this, folks, $40 an 8-pack.
Holy cow.
There you go.
Whoa.
Yowza.
Sir, it better be some really good
It
stuff.
must be good stuff, huh?
Yeah, it must be, yeah.
Say how much, how many milliliters of CBD or how many grams?
Well, it doesn't say it on here, no.
Wow.
On there, but we'll keep tabs on that and we'll see where that goes with that. So that'll be kind of interesting.
That's good.
I want to remind everybody again, it's getting to be that time to check your plants for males.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Blaine.
You're welcome. Well, you know, the one that was growing voluntarily by the side of my house, which I hope was going to be a female, turns out today I'm looking at it, I think it's going to be a male. So remember that we're moving down the low road here, coming along. Remember, you got to send your hemp samples in for testing. Just follow those rules that MDAR's come out with. You got to call the lab first, get your appointment set up, make sure you send it in a bag, labeled, all that good stuff. And find all that great information on the MDART website. And remember, MDART, that's the way MDART communicates with us a lot, through email. So be checking them, make sure you check your spam, make sure you check whatever folders you got. There's been nothing that I've seen come out since their number 24 notice. So that's the only thing I've seen lately has come out on that. So what we're doing here for Michigan with this livestock program is right now is we're just getting a list of farmers that want to be part of this. And then as we move along later this fall, we'll be able to get them in contact and figure out all the requirements we're going to do for that. But still, we're still looking for farmers to be part of that process on that. As a personal note, if anybody did grow any hemp for grain seed this year, I am interested in looking and talking to them about buying that product. So, and we're getting a lot of phone calls and emails regarding processing, drying service, buyers for this year's crop, and growers looking to labor for fall harvest. Remember to use the iHemp.com business list, member list, and classified ads. We have made the pricing very affordable to place business ads or classified, so all hemp growers, processors, and buyers are able to see and connect each other. That's still one of our hardest points with this whole thing, is making sure we're getting everybody to talk and be able to talk to each other. So it's a great way to look at that. Put an ad up there if you've got something for sale, if you've got some labor that you guys that want to do some labor. If you need labor, put it up there so we can utilize that tool very much. And the last thing I'm going to talk with before we get into our talk today is that the Midwest iHemp Expo is a go. This year's theme is going to be a sustainable world. So mark your calendars for Friday, January 22nd and Saturday, 23rd, January 2001. The Lansing Center in Michigan is where we're going to have it. The Radisson Hotel will have special rates for us, and we'll have additional information out soon, and registration will start October 1st. We may have to change to a hybrid kind of live virtual show, so we're working on that. But either way, you won't want to miss this. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope that we're going to be able to have the live version of that in January. All right. So with that, anybody else got anything else you want to throw in there, Mike or Dave?
Well, we do want to thank our sponsors. We have two sponsors of the iHemp Hour. I don't want to keep Courtney waiting too long because I'm sure she has great stuff we need to learn about. But thanks to Crystalline for sponsoring the iHemp Hour. Crystalline offers distillation of your oils, and they offer formulation as well. And thanks to Down on the Farm, who is offering hemp seed oil. So you have cases of hemp seed oil in the works that might be available very soon.
We will have, yes, we will have. And we'll have hemp hearts too. I did find a machine for that, so we will have hemp hearts. So.
Yeah, excellent. All right, I think that's it.
All right. Well, it is with pleasure that we invite Courtney Moran on our show today. Courtney is the legislative strategist for Agriculture Hemp Solutions. They do legislation education organization, and I was Courtney and Eric and Sean did a really nice program, and I thought it was important for us to be able to talk about this. This is about legislative and what's going to be happening for the next few months. What I like to refer to as the silly season is here, with everybody out doing all their campaigning and everything else. Well, let's get them to promise what they'll do for hemp in this whole situation. So Courtney's going to cover a lot of good things. I'm not going to hold up her time either, but again, we're very, very grateful that Courtney could take time out of her busy schedule to help us and help us learn how to get in touch with our legislators and the issues that are important for hemp and hemp processors and growers moving forward. So Courtney, I'll give it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Blaine, Dave, and Michael for having me on the show today. I do really appreciate it. It is a really critical time in our industry right now. I mean, you heard all the different news that's coming out. There's so many different opportunities, and yet our industry is at this crossroads between where we've been, where we are, and where we're really trying to go. And a lot of that is being determined not only on the market, but on the rules that are in place and the rules that are currently governing our programs and the rules that are going to be governing our program. And, you know, I think it's pretty universal and unilateral that we're all very, very concerned about the interim final rules that came out from USDA to regulate our commercial hemp production program domestically. I think we all see that these rules are, you know, putting our industry at risk, and that our precious hemp is not being treated like the agricultural commodity that it is. The big concern that we collectively have is that the interim final rule is leading to more onerous regulation nationwide than we have under our current pilot programs, that it's inconsistent with the intent of the 2018 Farm Bill. You know, the 2018 Farm Bill was to open up markets, reestablish hemp as a commodity in the United States, but instead is potentially leading to us losing all of the protections that we've achieved over the past 6 years while we've been operating under the 2014 Farm Bill, and potentially losing a lot of crops, you know, especially this upcoming harvest season. The Congressional Research Service estimated that approximately 20% of the crops may fail this season. That's significant. You know, and who knows if that's even, you know, just a low estimate. You know, given the transition from the Delta 9 standard to the total THC standard, it's going to be very interesting to see this fall, you know, how many crops actually do pass and actually can make it to market. Now, with that transition, you know, from the 2014 Farm Bill pilot programs to the 2018 Farm Bill, we're going to see a full transition into compliance with these interim final rules. And, you know, USDA has given the deadline that states can only operate under these 2014 pilot programs until October 31st of this year, which is, you know, just about 2 months away. Excuse me. And states were actually advised by USDA that they were to have their plans submitted to USDA by August 15th, which was actually this past weekend, so that USDA would have the full 60 days to actually review and approve the plans of the states that were still operating under the 2014 Farm Bill. And Blaine, as you mentioned when you were doing your news update, and this is something that I really wanted to highlight, was that on August 14th, so just last Friday, the New York Agriculture and Markets Commissioner, Richard Ball, wrote a letter to Secretary Perdue and to USDA and said, and I just want to quote one thing here, is that it's the department's view that many of the requirements concerning the scope and timing of sampling and testing, the disposal of non-compliant plants, and reporting are unrealistic and impose unreasonable burdens on growers and any state interested in administering a compliant program. And so the whole purpose of this letter was to notify USDA that New York will not submit a state plan to USDA for that 2021 growing season. And Blaine, as you mentioned, now New York farmers, you know, after October 31st, are going to be subject to getting licenses directly from USDA and will be required to comply directly with these interim final rules. You know, I think it's a really interesting play by New York. You know, there's some states that have been very hesitant to submit plans, you know, like Kentucky, Oregon, Colorado, you know, none of them had submitted plans before last week, demanding that changes were made by USDA, but also knowing that they wanted to maintain regulatory authority over their program. And, you know, like for an Oregon example, you know, we've been working on rulemaking and our department's still doing everything that they possibly can to ensure that they're protecting our farmers as best as possible. And you know, they're not willing to give our program directly over to USDA. They still want to maintain that regulatory authority, but that they're trying to find any way that they can to maintain the protections that we've had for our farmers as long as possible. And New York here, I mean, they see the same problems that we're all seeing, and yet, you know, their response is that we're not even submitting a plan. You know, our farmers are just going to have to go right under USDA. And so I think they're making a strong message to USDA, but I also feel for the farmers there because now they are still going to be subject to those rules. And it's kind of like New York just kind of threw up their hands and said, all right, USDA, it's in your court now. You're going to have to license our farmers.
So a couple questions. You know,
Sure.
They've talked about trying to get USDA to extend these out to 2022 now, till you know, September of next year, 2021. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's going to be realistic? Do you think USDA is going to listen and maybe extend this out, do you think?
So there is a lot of pressure to extend the 2014 pilot program authority beyond the current October 31st deadline of this year. But USDA has made clear that from their position, this is a legislative requirement, and that based on the language of the 2018 Farm Bill, that they only have the 1 year transition period. So meaning, you know, the 1 year which started October 31st of 2019 to October 31st of 2020, which is, you know, coming up here in just 2 months. So from USDA's perspective, this has to be handled legislatively. And so there has been, you know, advocacy being done, and there has been movement from Congress attempting to, delay this enforcement requirement, or, you know, really to extend out the 2014 transition, but we're getting different dates. So currently the House of Representatives in their agriculture appropriations bill actually provided for an extension, but only until September 31st of 2021. And so I don't look at that as helpful. I mean, September is better than October, but is it really? September is going to be right in the heart of next year's harvest season, and every jurisdiction will have to transition again. And so I don't really see a September, 2021 date as very helpful to the industry. Sure, it's another 10, 11 months, but I don't think it's really that helpful. But the discussions that have been happening.
Calendar date on this. I mean, I understand where we have the fiscal year kind of situation, but this really is a fiscal year thing, Why can't we move it to January 1st, right? I mean,
right, exactly. Yeah, crops don't care about the fiscal year; they care about the sunlight and the weather. So there has been discussion on the Senate side to create an extension until January of 2022. That's what I've specifically been asking from the Senate to do in their appropriations bill. And we've actually seen recently some statements come out from both Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer out of New York, specifically also asking for that request. And so there were 2 letters actually that were recently sent to USDA. And on January 29th, Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley sent a letter to Secretary Perdue and wrote, and I'll quote this as well, "In light of the serious issues with the interim final rules and the testing protocols, we request USDA to allow programs established under the 2014 Farm Bill to continue to operate their hemp pilot programs until January 1 of 2022. So again, they are making that specific request to extend out the 2014 Farm Bill, but they also reiterate the concerns that they actually first addressed to USDA back on November 20th of 2019, right after the rules came out. And they, the list of concerns include the DEA registration requirements for laboratories, the DEA reverse distributor requirement for destruction of non-compliant crops, a 15-day harvest window, the mandatory total THC testing of every hemp lot produced, the non-representative sampling requirements, and then again, that arbitrary 0.5% THC negligence threshold. So they really are, trying to push USDA and to really make them understand the issues that the industry is having, but also to reiterate that these rules are inconsistent with legislative intent. Senator Wyden was working on this language very, very closely. We were all in the room together negotiating this, and the rules that came out, are not reflective of the intent of that bill. And then on August 7th, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wrote another letter to Secretary Perdue, again asking that USDA delays the issuance of the final rules, which is actually a little bit beyond what some of the other folks have been asking, and again asked to allow states to be able to continue to operate under the 2014 Farm Bill Pilot Program Authority. And in his letter, he stressed concerns about how the interim final rule is going to lead to rushed harvests, especially with that 15-day harvest window, and made a statement that the interim final rules will harm the very businesses that Congress hoped to help with a new agricultural commodity. So, we're seeing a lot of support, thankfully, coming, from the Senate. There has been some action on the House side. I don't think what the House has done is really as, it's not going to be as effective as what the Senate is actually trying to provide for us. Like we just discussed, that September deadline isn't going to really be helpful. But we have to keep in mind that this is going to require a full legislative fix. And so we're going to have language appear, you know, for example, in an appropriations bill that would delay out and extend out that 1-year transition period so we can actually continue to operate under our 2014 pilot program.
So I'm wondering, you know, with what New York has done, of course, and I don't know, I'm assuming Michigan has sent ours in because they were getting it ready. But if you think if all the states got together and said the same thing that New York had said, now we aren't going to do this, and USDA, you run the program, you think that would change their mind? They haven't got the manpower or people to run that program either, so.
Yeah, you know what, it would be really interesting what they would do. The USDA site does list that Michigan's plan is under review. So they likely have submitted and it's under review, like several others. But, you know, that would have been an interesting approach if they all had said, you know what, we don't agree with this. We're not going to even submit a plan. It's all on you. You know, USDA has already been operating the program in New Hampshire this year. I believe they had about 10 licensees, so it wasn't that much personnel time for them to oversee the program. But if every state had just said, no, too bad, USDA, we're not doing it, I wonder what kind of reaction that would have gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I guess we'll really never know, right? Because so many states have submitted, but I think the states that have,
what if they could do that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the states that have already, you know, been pretty forceful with USDA and saying, you know, we're delaying until the very last moment we have to, and talking to their congressmen and women and asking for the extension through the appropriations bill, you know, is a mechanism to do that as well.
So some of the things that we've talked about, you brought up, you know, the DEA labs, the lack of options for the disposal of the crop, you know, the 1%, you know, a lot of people are talking about 1%. Some are even advocating 3%, which is what I'm advocating, because I fear if we go for the 3, we'll get the 1 kind of thing, you know. Compromise somewhere along the line there, but yeah, these issues are going to be real issues that are going to face a lot of people this fall, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember what the percentage was of our crop that went hot? Was it 15?
I believe so.
Right around 13-15% last year.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Wisconsin, I think, got hit a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney, did you want me to share any of these slides?
If you want.
It's up to you. I don't know where we're at on the.
We could talk about the campaign a little bit if you want.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that we want to definitely stress, Courtney, is this campaign and what to do. Remember, folks, that, you know, right now is the time when everybody's going to be home, and we may be able to get some face-to-face meetings or, you know, letters or whatever. We'll also talk a little bit about the sign the petition for the 1% too in a little bit. But yeah, Courtney, why don't you go through these real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we've all been talking about our general concerns. Congress has been reaching out to USDA. Like I said, I think it's pretty unilateral, the concerns that the industry are having with these interim final rules, and the fact that so many states, you know, at one point there were 25 states that had elected to remain under the 2014 Farm Bill Authority. You know, it's just been slowly, as we're getting close to this August 15th submission deadline and the October 31st deadline for the transition, that more states have actually submitted their plans. So there has been a lot of pushback. And, you know, while the one solution, the temporary solution that we've been talking about so far is to get this extension to continue to operate under our 2014 pilot programs, is that's just another Band-Aid, right, to delay out what we've been operating under. But that really isn't solving the key issues that we're having, which are the actual regulations in the interim final rules themselves. And so if you want to go one more slide. And so like I pointed out with what, you know, Senator White and Senator Merkley have pointed out in their letters, is that these are these underlying concerns with the rules that can be addressed in rulemaking. And that's what I want people to understand, is that we are actually in a current rulemaking with the USDA. We have these interim final rules that were published last October. They became effective immediately, and that's what several states are already operating under, and what all the other states are going to operate under, and even the states that don't submit plans like New York, when they transition to USDA regulatory authority, that they're going to be operating under, that these are rules that we have an opportunity to fix. There will be an upcoming public comment period with USDA. We had that first public comment period last December and January. There will be another public comment period announced this upcoming fall. We don't have the dates for that yet, but it will be announced. And so it's very critical that we continue to speak out and that we are focusing on lobbying efforts to really address these concerns that we have with interim final rules. USDA is hearing this from all angles. They've been hearing it from Congress. They're hearing it from the departments of agriculture. They're hearing it from industry. But we have to be actively lobbying them to ensure that we're getting the changes that we actually want to see. We need collective action. We need to be working together, having a consistent message, and really providing evidence and science-based requests to USDA for the changes that we want to see. And it's really important that we do this now, right? The timeline is ticking and it is moving fast. We have, like I said, just about 2 months until the current transition period ends, unless we do get that extension through the appropriations bill. Once that ends, we're all operating under the interim final rules. And then we have only so many months until these rules actually do become final. And once rules are final, that's kind of it. These rules are going to set the foundation for how our industry is going to be regulated from here on out. Of course, you can go through another formal rulemaking process. It's a whole nother procedural mechanism to go back and amend rules. But we have an opportunity right now because we are in this active rulemaking period. And so that is why I launched this lobbying campaign through Agricultural Hemp Solutions. Our goal is to bring the national industry together. We're already aligned with the issues that we see, but we have to come together and advocate together to be successful. The goals and the objectives of this campaign are to amend the interim final rules, to secure rational final rules that will provide reasonable oversight for our commercial hemp production program, broaden USDA authority, limit DEA's authority, protect our hemp farmers and our agribusinesses, and to eventually pass science-based federal legislation, meaning a 1% definition for hemp. So my team is calling this the Crossroads campaign. That's what they came to me with a few weeks ago. They're like, Courtney, you should really be calling this the Crossroads campaign. And I thought, I'm like, you know what? They're right. Because we are at a crossroads in our industry. We have come so far over the past 6 years, going from no cultivation to cultivating in the majority of our states with having, almost an oversupply of biomass. And we finally legalized hemp with the 2018 Farm Bill. We have our regulatory authority finally back under the USDA, and yet we're all concerned that our industry is being set up for failure based on overly burdensome rules and rules that are not reflective of the intent of the Farm Bill. And so we really are at this crossroads where we can either all come together and get this right and set these rules up to create a bright future for our industry, or we can, just sit back and complain about it and, kind of watch our industry crumble right as we're getting off the ground based on restrictive regulations.
Yeah, we're not going to see the investment that we need to build out the supply chain with the problems, the limitations and the risk that's involved right now.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so much risk in getting involved with this crop, with this industry. I mean, we're fighting with arbitrary THC concentrations to determine whether we can even harvest our crop and pull it out of the ground. And so you're right, there's a lot of risk, and we really need to ensure that we have regulations that are setting us up to limit that risk and to really support our farmers and to support our manufacturers downstream. And so, you know, I can't stress it enough. This is our time to engage. This is our time to have our voices heard, to have our voices elevated. You know, supporting a campaign like the HHS campaign to amend the final rules is how we can do this together. You know, we really need to work together. We have to be reaching out to the USDA during the comment period. We have to be contacting our congressmen and women. And, you know, as Blaine mentioned, it is August recess right now. So the majority of the congressmen and women and our senators are at home, they're in district. You know, some may be having town halls, some may be having virtual town halls, but it's really important that we reach out to them and let them know, you know, this is a very serious issue. This is having some serious economic impacts on our family, on our farm, on our businesses. You know, we really need to secure that extension of the 2014 Farm Bill, but we also need your help and support in addressing these issues with the interim final rules. And so if you would like to, you know, learn more about our campaign, learn more about getting involved, if you have any questions about the upcoming comment period, about how to contact your congressmen and women, you know, please contact us. Reach out to us at campaigns@agriculturalhempsolutions.com. You can just visit our website, agriculturalhempsolutions.com. We have tiers for engagement in our campaign, and so we're really trying to make sure that this is accessible for everyone, because we really do see that the success of our industry is really going to be dependent upon us all working together. You know, we've come such a long way being so creative and so ambitious with all of our goals for what we know this plant can do for all of us. And we've done some amazing things, and we don't want that to end here. You know, we're really just at our beginning, and I think we have this incredible opportunity. And so if we can come together, we can really secure a bright future for all of us. But it is going to take everyone to be engaged to ensure our success.
Courtney, let me ask, why do you think there's a disconnect between what the intent of the Farm Bill was and what the USDA wants to do? What is going on? Any ideas?
I think that there is a lot of pushback from DEA onto what USDA can and cannot do, given that USDA is operating in, you know what they've told me, one slice of the pie, right? If cannabis is a whole pie, hemp is just this one little slice up to 0.3%. And anything beyond that is still considered marijuana. It's still a Schedule I controlled substance. And so there's a lot of concern about the interplay between the two. You know, so if a crop does go hot and now a lab is testing material and it is at 0.4 or more, theoretically, under federal law, it's actually marijuana and it's not hemp. And so that's why DEA wants to see the DEA registered labs handling the testing. You know, but if we look to what's happened though over the past 6 years, we haven't needed the DEA oversight. States have been able to regulate their programs. They've had either State Department of Agriculture labs, or in a lot of states that do have marijuana programs, have the marijuana testing labs able to provide testing for the hemp crops and hemp farmers. And so we've learned a lot over these last 6 years, and it just doesn't make sense for us to have to go backwards. You know, the intent of the Farm Bill was to really establish hemp as an agricultural commodity and open up the door for our farmers to grow this crop and to create an industry that can thrive. But we are being held back by other, you know, regulations that are in place that have nothing to do with hemp, but also because this is a new commodity and there is a lot going on. And I think USDA really, you know, in their hearts are trying to do the right thing and are trying to set this industry up to succeed, but that the regulations that they put in place without really knowing this industry and understanding where we've come from and how things are playing out in the field have not been reflective in those interim final rules. You know, some of the things that we're concerned about as an industry are in the rules themselves that can be changed through the rulemaking, and some require legislative fixes. You know, so for example, the issue with, you know, the 0.3% total THC and us all wanting to get to 1%, that's a legislative fix. That is not a regulatory fix. So that will take federal legislation. But things like arbitrary negligence thresholds, that can be changed through rulemaking. This, 15-day harvest window, that can be changed through rulemaking. And that exact issue is something that we dealt with in Oregon. When we first started our program, we had only a 2-week harvest window available for farmers. It was a 14-day harvest window, and it was not working for our farmers. And we went to our Department of Agriculture and we explained the issues that our farmers were having, and farmers gave, firsthand accounts of how difficult this was in their fields. And we changed it to initially a 4-week harvest window and then specifically to 28 days. And so I think it's just the lack of experience as well, Michael, that USDA has with this crop. A lot of our state departments of agriculture have worked for years with our farmers. They've worked on these programs. They see what works, what isn't working, and they've been able to make modifications because we had such a broad authority under the 2014 Farm Bill, whereas now, we're all kind of stuck under this interim final rule. And unless, we speak out and really provide USDA with some clear guidance, that we're going to be stuck with these.
I'm going to do one more quick follow-up. If the marijuana was rescheduled or delisted or whatever you want to say, that was legalized on the federal level, do you think that would simplify a lot of things for hemp farmers and the USDA?
I would say it could simplify things. I think there would be less concern, but it would really be dependent upon what does marijuana legalization look like. What kind of constraints are put on that program? Is it kind of an open door policy for cultivation and just limiting end products? That would solve a lot of our issues. But if it's a very strict regulatory framework, it's really hard to say. But I do think that a lot of the reefer madness fear that has been ingrained into this country for decades is really hindering the advancement of the hemp commodity right now. Yeah, and I think a lot of us are getting over that, right? We see how great this plant is. We see all the things that it can do. And we legalized hemp, right? We were able to educate Congress to the point that they understand that this is a different crop and that we have a lot of potential. It's just that hasn't been carried all the way through yet into the rules.
Yes, reefer madness, we do need to get that under control, but
we need as good a propaganda campaign as they've had the last 80 years. Mm-hmm. But
we don't need propaganda, we have facts.
Yeah, a good point, well taken. But we can't even talk about it on, yet advertised through Google and Facebook without, getting slapped. So, which is
I do have a little bit of an update to share from the Michigan situation. Let me bring this back up. I got a text while we were talking. So the state plan is submitted to USDA. I think, Courtney, you confirmed that you're looking on the sites where it says it is there. But it's a draft, so they're not available to publicly release information yet until they hear back from the USDA whether it's been approved, in case they got to make changes, stuff like that. So,
well, wouldn't that be Senate Bill 850 is what they submitted, or not? Is that, it's my memory.
Courtney sees what they're on whatever website she's looking at, Dave?
No, well, I was just I'm remembering back to when we had Gina on, and that's what they were working on, I think, was.
Yes, off of, 850 gave them the framework, I guess, to go forward with that plan. Yes.
Yeah. So complied with all the draconian rules.
Well, Courtney, what do we need to do? Do we go to the website then and get information there, sign up?
Yes, please. So yeah, you can email us directly, campaigns@agriculturalhempsolutions.com. We'll respond to you. We'll send you the full campaign proposal, share with you the tiers for engagement with us, and we can help you navigate through these federal hurdles that we have to overcome.
Well, we will be doing that sometime this afternoon from the iHemp standpoint, but we want everybody to do that individually as well if you have time.
What is that building, Courtney, on your that you use in your slide and on your website? Is that in Oregon?
No, it's the federal capitol.
It's a federal capitol? Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, very impressive building.
I refer to it as Disneyland East, but that's my own. What I call it. So make believe there. So also,
yeah, folks can also call us directly. We have an 800 number, 888-388-HEMP. So feel free to give us a call. We're happy to chat with you if you have any questions. You know, if there are things that are really concerning you about these rules, I mean, we'd love to hear your stories. You know, we want to be able to submit, you know, proof to USDA about how this isn't working. And so it really is going to take hearing from all of you and all of us working together.
all right. Well, thank you very much, Courtney. If anybody has questions, throw them in the chat. We're on that. All right.
Is it time for the recipe?
Well, we're getting close to that. Yeah, we're getting close to that. But I did find my Jacobson report. I just want to kind of read this a little bit. So it says USDA Farm Service Agency gave us our first look at the planted hemp acreage yesterday. Now, I don't know where they're getting this report from, but I'm going to do a little research and figure it out. Maybe Courtney knows, but we had hoped that the August crop report would offer comprehensive numbers for planted hemp acreage, but this is not the case. With 42,275 acres registered to date, and I'm assuming obviously that's nationwide. For other crops, the day's report portfolio crop acres, and this August report is also incomplete. So right now, people are still certifying their acres at FSA office, so this is nowhere near a completed report. So hopefully we'll, but here's a snapshot of the distribution. I'm just going to kind of show this, and we'll get it up on the website so people can see it. I'll get more information out. But so all those little white dots that you see there are where we have reported acres for hemp that's been grown. So kind of interesting, the distribution. I'm interested to see all of it quite up in here, up in that northern, up in that area there too. But in Michigan, I'll try to bring it in a little closer. You see Michigan.
Yeah, it looks like Indiana's pretty well covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one side, the western side of Indiana, eastern Illinois.
Oregon doesn't seem to be too well represented there, Courtney. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe you guys.
Well, what I was going to say is that that's only reporting the acreage reported to the Farm Service Agency. A lot of jurisdictions aren't requiring that yet.
Correct.
And in Oregon, we are not required to report to FSA yet.
So it's not. So it's nowhere near any kind of real accurate report. But,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but next year, if the rules remain as they are, every crop is required to be reported, so it would be more accurate next year. Yeah. It's still interesting to see the clusters, though.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Courtney, I have a question for you since you're from Oregon. What have you guys done in reference to cross-pollination?
Great question. It's mostly been responsible, friendly farming is what we try to advocate for. You know, we really encourage folks to communicate with their neighbors about what they're what they're planting, when they're harvesting, et cetera, and really try to time things out. The issues that we've seen really have not been so much as, you know, like a grain crop next to a flower crop or a hemp grain next to a marijuana crop. It's really been more about folks that think that they're growing feminized seed and they weren't given feminized seed, or they didn't know to pull the males, and that's what's created the issues. And so it's really more about
procedures.
Lack of transparency, fraud in seed dealings. That's created issues, and not so much, you know, different types of crops creating the issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So no major issues.
I mean, there's definitely been crops that have been seeded, both, you know, hemp flower crops and marijuana crops that have been seeded, but it's not because a grain or a fiber farm, you know, came into an area. It's because of the genetics that were planted. Yeah. And I mean, you know, it's definitely hurt both sides. You know, I mean, I know a lot of hemp farmers that thought that they were planting feminized seed and it wasn't, and they had a lot of males come up, more so than they thought, and tried to pull them best they could and seeded themselves and their neighbors. And so it's been those types of issues. And, you know, there's been talk about pinning systems and things like that, which are of course good ideas, but if you don't know what you're putting in the ground, that's not going to prevent those types of issues from happening.
Right.
What's interesting that I've seen with the grain growing is that the pollination for the grain happens so much earlier than the pollination for the CBD plants. So grain may not even be an issue, depending on, of course, when
Get
you
it
plant
in
it.
and out, yeah.
Yeah, certainly isn't as big as some others on it. So,
Yeah, timing is a key factor.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, I guess it's that time. The Emperor. All right. So this week's recipe is hemp and lemon hummus. Delicious recipe with hemp seed hearts. Now, we've had a little discussion with Dave and I about how we're going to do this, and I'm not a Rachel Ray, but we're going to try to do a little video stuff and show how to cook it and those kind of things. So we're going to try to up the game here a little bit in the next few weeks to do this. But so the ingredients, we'll have them listed on the site to do this. It's a pretty simple. I like simple recipes, simple things to do. But we'll give a little picture of what it looks like. I didn't get a chance to make any yet, but that's there. And of course, one of the things that we have in there, of course, is hemp hearts and hemp oil. And you say, well, wow, where can we get that wonderful hemp oil?
Here it comes, the shameless plug.
Here
Go
comes
ahead.
the shameless, that's right, the shameless one. Anyways, so here it is. We're going to be having, this is hemp oil that I'm making and available for sale. We'll have it on the website. If you put in iHemp Hour on the website, you get a discount for that when you order that. And we'll soon be having the flour and soon be having the hemp hearts will be available as well. So
There we go.
there we go.
Hemp seed oil.
Seed oil.
Look at those delicious
Wonderful stuff.
fries.
It's wonderful stuff for you. But next week, we're going to go back to the grill next week, and we're going to have, if you like sweet potatoes, this is a great recipe. Sweet potato hemp burgers, gluten-free, vegan, and they are delicious. Well, I'll tell you how delicious they are next week. But anyways, they look really good, and I like sweet potatoes, so that's going to be the teaser for next week. We'll be going back to the grill next week.
Cool.
And then next week's show is going to be really interesting. This is something that I came across in it's responsive drip irrigation. And Peter, if I say this right, hope I don't butcher it too bad, but Zerba is with RDI. They have the only plant responsive irrigation system on the market. Their system eliminates valves, no electric, runs at 1 to 3 PSI. There's a 60% water savings from standard drip. They've seen a 30 to 388% yields, faster grows, and outperformed all hydroponic systems. So the theory here is that, let me see if I can get to here, this here. So the technology is based on organic chemistry. GrowStream is the name, is a smart subsurface irrigation tube that interacts and responds to chemical signals released by the plant roots. Grow system allows the plants to self-regulate its water delivery, resulting in unmatched plant performance, water savings, and money savings versus all existing forms of forced irrigation. So this is going to be pretty interesting next week. Whether you grow outdoors, whether you grow indoors, whatever. This responsivedrip.com. Dave, you're going for it. Did you put that up there, Dave?
I did. Yep.
Okay, good. So any of you want to get a little preview to it, go to the responsivedrip.com website. Have your questions ready for him because he's going to be able to answer them. And we're looking forward to bringing on some new technology. Remember, we're doing a sustainable world, and if we can cut even more use down for the water on these plants to go, that they only need water when they want water, this is a huge thing. So we're really looking forward to next week's thing. Courtney, again, we want to thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule. Everybody go to the site, talk to them, get this information. Our legislative people are at home right now. Now is the time to be hitting them up when we can talk to them face to face. It's a great time for us to be able to get in the game. So again, thank you, Courtney, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for having me. And yes, please check out agriculturalhempsolutions.com. Have a great day.
Excellent. Thank you, Courtney.
All right. See you all next week.
Hey, see everybody next week.
All right. Peace and love.